So that goes back to my question then, is literacy for 90% of Americans, is that the goal? Because when a child's third grade and down, when they fail, who's failed? Who failed? They didn't fail by themselves.
Hmm.
They didn't get themselves there. They don't get themselves up in the morning. They don't wash their clothes. They don't feed themselves. They don't go out and purchase the food. They don't go to teacher parent conferences and say, oh, well, I'm strong here, I'm weak in there. They don't make themselves do their homework. They don't sign the report cards. They don't do any of that. So if I was a second grade or third grade and I was held back, I'm going to go to my adults that are in my life and I'm going to say, what did you do to prepare me for this moment?
Wow.
How did I get here? What did you do? How did you contribute to me being here?
Mhm.
And I think it will be very different. And when we leave children back, we just leave them back. We don't look at the social emotional toil that it has. We don't look at where they are. We don't look at, okay, let's look at what did we do? It's always the child. They feel penalized. It's always the child. But we don't look at and reflect on what did we do. Did we have a teacher that was on maternity leave? Or did we have a teacher that was out? Did we have the teacher who was absent a lot? Do we have the teachers who have the capacity? Let's look at that. Let's then now look at what's happening at home. Let's bring everybody together where there's some issues that happen at home. There's so many things that we need to take into account before we hold a child back
Right.
because they didn't get themselves there.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. In your book, um, Dr. Blanton, what was the hardest thing that you had to write in there that you was like, this has to go because it has to be in
Um, there's a chapter about student agency. There's a part in there about I read a book and then it's called it's about um, the segregation of experiences,
there? Mm.
right? And that was the hardest part for me because it's so true and it's happening today. You go into an urban school district versus a suburban school district, and you see children in the urban setting, they've got to walk in a line. They have to wear uniforms. They have to keep their eyes straight ahead. They can't talk to anybody that they know or say hi to the teachers that they know in the hallway. They don't have um, they don't have an option as to what they want to learn. They don't have opportunity to talk to each other. They don't have opportunity. They don't have a choice and agency over what they're learning. It's all directed to them. And if they do have choice, they have to earn it. Whereas if you go to suburban, they're wearing flip flops and pajamas and they're walking in the hallway and hey, Miss So and so, hey, so and so. And they have voice and choice over what they want, of what they're learning and how they learn it. You can go into a classroom and it's bubbling. Someone gets up, sharpen a pencil, someone goes to another group, and they're like, how did you do this? And if that happened in an urban district, they'll be suspended.
Mm.
If there's a student in an urban classroom and they call out, or, because they know the answer, they call out, you're going to go to the principal's office because that's not the rule. But in suburbia, that's leadership skills. They're being assertive.
They're taking initiatives.
They're taking initiative. That's a great leader. But that same student in the same experience will go to the principal's office because they're being defiant because they're not following the rules of the classroom.
Insubordination.
Insubordination. And so the experiences, that was the hardest chapter for me because the experiences that these students in these two different environments experience is very different. And that was troubling to me
Mm.
because I see it. I know it to be true.
That's so hard too, because it's like
They're kids.
exactly right, and then like the adults are like, or trying to do their best,
Mhm.
right? Like no matter where they are, like,
Mhm.
I genuinely hope they're trying to do their best,
Mhm.
and they're just trying to get them to be compliant to a rule. But it's like compliance is good to a certain extent,
Mhm.
not when it's over exaggerated, where you
Mhm.
can't even be human
Mhm.
in a certain area. Like you can't even pass by your friends without even getting
Mhm.
suspended, which sucks.
Mhm.
I went to Brandeis in the city. Every day we always had to go through like metal detectors and stuff, and we had four different schools on each floor.
Mhm.
So you had you had you had like one of the like the kindergarten elementary schools on on the first floor.
Mhm.
There was another high school on the second floor, uh, and on the third floor was our high school, and then another high school. So on the third floor, it was like split in half,
Mhm.
and the fourth floor was like GED. So we had a whole bunch
Mhm.
of kids and a whole bunch of different levels
Mhm.
in the school. Um, and like during lunchtime, all the schools they kind of all get together in the cafeteria. So you'll have friends in different groups, or in different areas of the school, right? Like you want to say hello, but like as soon as you do say hello, you're like
Mhm.
you're gone. You try to make some groups with them. It's like no, like their principal tells their principal, your principal tells their
Mhm.
principal.
Mhm.
Then, or either like the
Mhm.
faculty start like talking, they're like,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, I'm just trying to say hello to my friend.
Mhm.
Um, but like those is kind of like kind of sucks is that it is supposed to be compliant, right? Because then they're supposed to be I'm responsible within the school. If I go to
Mhm.
another section, then
Mhm.
I'm not in the actual setting of my school.
Mhm.
Or if anything
Mhm.
happens, then
Mhm.
like I had to mature to understand
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
understand that compliance.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
um, and it I guess like ways I connected was through sports, after school programs, things like that. Because then it's like when the day's over, that's when the chaos could be let loose.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but that has to be like a balance between, I guess, chaos
Mhm.
and order. Um, just
You know what's
You can
funny?
have agency and still have order. Are we
yeah,
building? My question is, are we building conform schools?
Mm,
yeah.
yes,
That's the
Or
hard part.
yes.
I mean, you
Performers.
can have you for safety reasons. You
Uh,
have to have boundaries.
yeah,
You have to have rules. You
Yes.
have to have regulation. You have to have policies and procedures. Yes, but within that, you can give students a sense of agency, a sense of voice, a choice of how they want to learn, and there's ways that we can balance that, but to say that students in an urban district have to earn those privileges, whereas the student in suburban, they're born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, to me, the segregation of experiences in our public schools really gets to me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that it was so much of a change. We've always had a reading problem. There's always been a reading problem, right? COVID did not unveil this great big reading problem. COVID unveiled the access and accessibility, right? That woke us up. But we've always had a problem in this country with reading, going back to anti literacy laws. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that um, our brains were not wired to read. We have to teach it to read, right? It does this great thing, right? It rewires itself, right? To form pathways for reading to develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very different than language. Language, you can put a child in a room full of people who are speaking and they will speak. You don't have to teach them how to talk, right? That is not going to happen for reading. You cannot sit someone in a room full of people who are reading, whether they're reading out loud or silently. It's not going to happen. You have to teach it to read, right? That starts very early. What we think is reading starts in kindergarten. And then we build these habits in kindergarten. And if we think that, we're 5 years already behind, right? Reading starts really at the moment of conception. How? Well, all of the stuff that mom eats, all of the environmental pressures and stress impacts the developing brain. Reading is all about the brain. The brain is the main character, right? And so if we understand that, then we have a point of reference. And so how do we build stamina, right? Because in order to learn to read and read well, you have to build stamina. I'm like, this is a race, right? Not for the quick athlete, but it's endurance. And it took us years, decades to get here. My book has only been out since August. It's not going to take months for us to get out. And so people have to come to the point where I came to and say, okay, I reflected. Now I see, and now I'm going to do better. When you know better, you do better.